This is Dundalk FC, the worst team in the game. Historically, they're the second most successful Irish team, but their current squad looks so terrible with only their captain rated over 60 overall. So our goal in this video is to make Dundalk the best team in the world by winning the Champions League. Now with this budget though, it's gonna be tough to improve anything. So this means our tactics have to be top notch if we want to win the title in the first season. Our current formation is a 4-3-3. We have a 56 rated center midfielder in the substitute, so we'll put him in. Then we also have a 50 rated center back, but he's 16 years of age. This is apparently what he looks like. He could have lots of potential and possibly become one of our legends. None of our players seem to be loaned in. Now going back to this formation, a left winger and a right winger won't work because we have left midfielders and right midfielders. So instead, I'm gonna go with a 4-5-1 flat. I think it's the way to go for our team, but we're gonna have to replace Austin Brink with Keane, but even Keane looks like he's gonna struggle. So I'm making an 18-year-old Italian kid named Patrick Nuama our first signing. Hopefully he can bang some goals in and get a lot of assists to take our club to the next level. Well, in the first game of the season, all eyes were on the new playmaker. With expectations running high, Nuama looked to be feeling the pressure. He came close to scoring and assisting a few times, but nothing would go past the goalkeeper.
You can do it, man. You just got to stay calm.
Despite trying his best to motivate himself, it would be much of the same in the second half, and the season opener would end 0-0, leaving everyone questioning whether the appointment of Mr. G or the signing of Nuama were the right moves for the club. Well, at the end of the season, let's just say things didn't go exactly how we wanted. Finishing in 9th and not the very bottom probably saved us our job. But at least there's one positive. Jamie Ghiellini, our striker, won the Golden Boot, and our only transfer, Patrick Nuama, had a decent season, getting himself 10 goals and 4 assists. Now for season 2, the board has set the budget at 2 million. If you'll remember, we were the team that conceded the most goals, so we need a new goalkeeper. And at the same time, we also have to start investing in our youth academy. So because our scout's a 1-star, we'll just keep him in Ireland to look for a winger, because our captain Horgan's down by 2 overall, and Mahone on the left is not showing any improvement. Now, while we were busy setting up our scouting network, our first signing of the season, a 72 rated Bolivian goalkeeper Vizcarra, has arrived. He provides our team with a massive 17 overall upgrade at the number 1 position, but will that be good enough to get us some actual results on the field? Well, things started out very well for us when we went up by a goal from the penalty spot. However, in the second half, Vizcarra looked terrible, conceding on the first shot he faced, so we began the season dropping 2 points because of our new signing. Then as all hope was fading after losing our second match, our goalkeeper must have snapped out of his jet lag, only conceding 2 goals in the next 4 matches while getting himself 2 clean sheets. Now going back over to our youth academy, our scout Murphy had some good news for us because he had found a gem of a 16-year-old named Ronan Rea, and seeing how he was tearing it up in the youth tournament just now, we have to give him a shot in our next match. Now this was professional football and Rea did show some signs of nervousness. However, this beautiful overhead pass allowed Nuama to score the only goal of the match, as the youngster nearly got his first goal contribution. It wouldn't count as an assist because the defender apparently took the ball away for a quick second. Regardless, Rea made a decent impact on the match as we won at 1-0. Now with a little bit of money left in our budget, we hired our first 2 coaches to help in developing our players a bit quicker, and when we fast forward to the end of season 2, we incredibly find ourselves in a winner-takes-all match against second place Shelbourne. And in this match, our youngster Rea assisted early on to Cullen to quickly give us a 1-0 lead, and he scored the second goal himself, and we went on to comfortably win the match 3-0 to lift our first trophy as Dundalk manager. So we were the team with the most goals and we conceded the least. It's too bad we couldn't win the FAA Cup as well. We were knocked out in the first round. And amazingly, Ghiellini won another Golden Boot. He got 28 goals this season. Nuama with 14 goals. Ghiellini and Nuama both with the top assists, tied with Mulroney from St. Pat's. And of course, our new signing Vizcarra had the most clean sheets. And then looking at the overall picture, Ghiellini was our best player of the season by far. Nuama was great. Rea played in 25 matches, got himself 2 goals and 4 assists. Now at the beginning of season 3, the board told us that they had a lot of debt. They had borrowed lots of money to keep the lights on, and they used the championship money to pay all that off, which is why we're only gonna have 692,000 to spend in our first Champions League season. So I don't know how much we can improve with this amount, but lucky for us, some free agents like the center back Guganig, the left midfielder Palacios, and the center midfielder Veglio were interested in what we're trying to build at Dundalk. Oh, and also being in the Champions League played a big factor as well. However, the higher wages all these new players were receiving wasn't sitting well with our back-to-back Golden Boot winner Ghiellini, and when the Swedish side Gais activated his release clause of 1 million, he felt it was in his best interest to leave the club. Now, left without a striker, we had a big decision to make. With just over 1.2 million in the bank, we sign either one of these average looking strikers, or we use that money to hire a much better scout and hope he can find us an amazing wonder kid. Well, we went with option 2, and it seems to have paid off. Look at this player we found. He's a 68 rated striker named Jensen, and we might as well call him Holland Jr. at this point. He looks like a tank, and we're gonna find out this season whether he's really good or he's gonna be a flop. Now, additionally, going with option 2 helped us save some money, and we were able to sign 3 more free agents: a Chinese left back named Shu, a Nigerian right back named Akujobi, and a 70 rated center attacking midfielder named Safuri. And with this squad, we're ready for some Champions League football. Having been matched up against Polish giants Lech Poznan in the first round of qualifiers, our team was just not good enough as we lost the first match 1-0 at home. Then in the return leg, our wonder kid Jensen showed some promise as he scored the only goal in regulation to take the tie into extra time. However, our lack of experience started to show, and we couldn't prevent an Isak hat-trick, so all hopes of playing in the Champions League this season were crushed in Poland. The season wasn't all over just yet though. Having beaten Feyenoord, we managed to qualify for the Europa League, and also Jensen's late winner in the Irish Cup meant we got to lift our second trophy as Dundalk manager. And now it's the end of season 3, and we managed to win the title once again. When it comes to the Europa League, because the Irish League ends early, we still have 2 more matches to go. Our wonder kid Jensen got 15 goals, so he's tied for the Golden Boot. We didn't have the player with the most assists, but we had the player with the most clean sheets as well. And now looking at the total stats, Jensen got himself 26 goals. He grew by 5 overall to 73. Palacios, Nuama, Safuri, they contributed well. And then Rhea, our first wonder kid, only got 6 assists, scoring 1 goal. This is how our starting 11 looks right now. Hopefully in season 4, our budget will be a little bit higher and no unexpected debts to pay. So in season 4, the board has given us 1.4 million. Is this some kind of joke? Where's all the money going? Well, with offers pouring in for Jensen from big clubs and a lack of any real money, we may soon be forced to sell him. Now, having finished 18th in the Europa League, we had a tough playoff tie against Besiktas to kick off this season. We nearly took the lead in the first leg, but Rhea missed this golden opportunity, and eventually the match ended in a 0-0 draw. So we knew things were going to be tough going into hostile territory for the return leg. However, you could tell our team was gaining more and more confidence with each trophy lifted, and this showed in how Jensen blazed past the Besiktas defense to put us up by a goal with a clinical finish. And look at the confidence on the kid. He goes, "I can't hear you," to the crowd. However, a weak penalty would be awarded to the host late in the second half. How's that a pen? With Oxlade-Chamberlain converting, this tie would require penalties to decide the winner. And despite Palacios missing a Panenka, Vizcarra's heroics would be enough to send us into the round of 16. Now, having been matched up against Sporting in the round of 16, we lost the first leg 2-0, and despite our best efforts in the return leg, a 1-1 draw meant that our journey in European football was all over for the season. Now, to make things worse, apparently our wonderkid striker Jensen broke his toe, which means we're going to be out without a striker for 3 months. But here's the beauty of the Irish League. We may have been knocked out of the Europa League, but in the same season, we're still trying to qualify for the Champions League. But the downside is we're still broke. So we went back to the flea market, the free agents list, and signed the 71 rated Chinese center back Dong Zhang. He should link up nicely with Shu, and we also bribed Jensen with the captain's armband to hopefully get him to stay with us. Then over in the Champions League qualifiers, we barely managed to beat Helsinki. Now, because we struggled so badly, the board has given us an ultimatum. Either you qualify for the Champions League or you're fired. So that wasn't going to be an easy task because our next opponent was Celtic, and our first match against Celtic is at home, but we have an extra bit of motivation for this one. You guys will remember Jamie Ghiellini, our 2-time Golden Boot winner. Apparently Celtic has signed him and he's their starting striker, and having left on bad terms, he wasn't a welcome sight at Oriel Park. However, he would get the first laugh when he assisted Maeda as Celtic took a 1-goal lead. Then our captain Jensen kicked off the second half by getting him behind the defense and scoring to tie the match. Wow! Ghiellini the villain then took matters into his own hands and scored Celtic's second goal to put them ahead once more. He then would go on to add another one following some bad defending on our part. Come on, Ghiellini, you've been terrible, man. But Jensen just couldn't be outshined, so he scored the second to cut Celtic's lead to 1. The ref ended the game there. Unbelievable. And to add insult to injury, Jamie Gullen was the man of the match, getting a 10 out of 10 rating. Now, going over to Celtic Park for the return leg, Jensen was the Champions League top scorer, and we really need a top performance from him if we're going to qualify. However, the match got off to a rough start when the ref awarded Celtic a penalty from a handball, but Vizcarra saved Gullen's penalty to keep our hopes alive. Then Nuama nearly opened the scoring in the second half with a flying Dutchman header, but couldn't beat Paulsen. Then disaster struck on the following counter-attack as Celtic went up by 1 with Bernardo scoring. But we weren't going to give up easily, so we responded quickly with Nuama squeezing past 2 defenders to tie the match at 1-1. Then Jensen, our hero, scored in the last minute to send the match into extra time. However, Gullen the villain got the last laugh, scoring the only goal in extras to crush our dreams of Champions League football.
Just kidding. We couldn't find anyone better.
Then on transfer deadline day, Jensen's 5 goals in 4 matches had caught Manchester City's attention, and Pep Guardiola gave us a visit to snatch up our wonder kid for 29.5 million. Now, this was an offer we just had to accept because it finally gives us a chance to buy some quality players. Now, finding a replacement striker hasn't been easy because all of our targets have moved on to different clubs and they don't want to join us, except for this guy. And we have a chance of getting him for less than his market value. But the Germans were tough to negotiate with, and finally at the end of the day we were able to sign him for 6.3 million. Also, seeing how easily we were getting exposed at the back, I decided to bring in this center back from Slavia Prague for 6.7 million. Then spent another 7.4 million on Meseguer, a Spanish center midfielder that can also play at number 9 and 10. And finally, with our team gaining a better reputation day by day, a left midfielder named Velde and a center back named Diachuk agreed to join us when their current contracts run out in the following transfer window. Now, despite making all these signings, at the end of the season we couldn't win the title, so next season we'll be playing in the Conference League, and with the board breathing down our necks once more, maybe it was winning this Irish Cup that saved us our job at the end. Now, we couldn't produce a Golden Boot winner, and our new signing Konadu scored 6 goals, but he only appeared in 10 matches. Our players dominated the assist charts though, but looks like our goalkeeper Vizcarra underperformed as well. And I'm not sure if Konadu was injured or not. He only played in 18 matches. When he did play, he was really good, got 7 goals, 1 assist. Meseguer only played in 18 matches as well, but I think the reason why they only played in 18 matches is because they arrived halfway through the season. Now, it looked like the beginning of the season because we were playing qualifiers for Champions League, so the point is the schedule in the Irish League is super confusing. But regardless, this is what our starting 11 looks like right now. I've promoted a few youth academy players like Barker, Rutherford, and Boyd. I think they have decent potential, but we'll see. Now, also, things aren't looking good in the Europa League. We only have 1 point in 5 matches. We could maybe sneak into the playoffs, but chances are unlikely. Now, with the arrival of Velde and Diachuk in season 5, we need a new formation, I think. So we're going with a 3-4-2-1, but this means we need to find a new cam. Now, this year the board was a little bit more generous with the budget, but why spend the money when there's a 76 rated free agent looking for a new club? So we first added Sean Longstaff to the team. So we'll play Longstaff at center mid and have Nuama play center attacking mid. Now, we also have to replace Safuri, I think. So I found a Spanish center attacking midfielder named Chucky, and I was able to get him for 3.5 million plus Safuri. We then sold Palacios, Akujobi, and Beglio to buy center back Liam Morrison for 3.4 million. And also, due to Vizcarra's declining performance in recent times, we signed a pre-contract with Shakhtar goalkeeper Riznik. With our striker Konadu winning player of the match awards week in, week out, this season went great. And in the end, we had a dominant season with only 1 loss to win the title once more. We also won the Irish Cup for a 3rd straight time. Now, in the Conference League, we barely missed qualifying directly into the round of 16. Now, I just mentioned Konadu's performance. He was the Golden Boot winner, and Velde had 18 goals. Chucky and Longstaff, the new players, had the most assists, and soon to be replaced Vizcarra had the most clean sheets with Boylan. Konadu absolutely carried the team with Velde, 42 goal contributions in 46 matches, an average rating of 7.92. He was just incredible. I'm really happy with how things are going. Most players are rated mid to high 70s, and in season 6 these players had us beating AIK in the Conference League playoffs. Then we went on an incredible run, taking out Shakhtar in the round of 16 and Atalanta in the quarter-final. Now, facing Sevilla in the semis, we barely managed to squeeze past them into the final, where we had to beat Wolfsburg if we wanted to lift our first European trophy, and this ended up being a pretty difficult task as our goalkeeper Riznik made a few solid saves to keep us in the match. And finally, just when everyone thought we had taken the lead, Konadu's flying header just sailed wide. Not long after though, it was our striker again, this time setting up Meseguer, who scored to put us up by 1. And this would end up being the only goal in the match as we make history by becoming the first ever Irish club to win a major European trophy. Now in the next transfer window, a lot of top talent were involved in huge moves, including our former academy star Jensen. And with rumors circulating about our captain Nuama possibly making a big move of his own, we somehow had to convince him to stay with us. Alright son, have a seat. Listen to me. With a name like Patrick, you're a god amongst men in the Republic of Ireland. Imagine winning the Champions League here. St. Patrick's Day would be celebrated in your honor.
But boss, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester City, they all want me.
Alright, fine. We'll triple your wages as well. So what do you say?
I'm saying no.
What?
No to all of those clubs. I'm staying.
What a funny guy. With Nuama staying on in the team, we sold Longstaff for 18 million and brought in French CDM Canvo, who's got a lot more potential for about the same amount of money. We then progressed into the Champions League group stage after taking out Legia Warsaw and Dinamo Zagreb in the qualifiers. And by the end of the season in Ireland, we sailed our way to yet another double, winning the league and the Irish Cup. Konadu broke Gullin's 28 goal record, scoring 31 to win the Golden Boot. Ronan Rea finally had a breakout season, dominating in assists, and we were sitting pretty in the Champions League with 9 points in 6 matches. Now, despite our constant success in the Irish League, in Season 7 our starting budget is only 9.4 million, so we really need to get creative with our lineup because the board is breathing down our necks again. They really need us to reach the quarterfinals, otherwise we might get sacked for real this time. So first, we went after a new goalkeeper and negotiated a trade for the 23-year-old 82 rated British goalkeeper Declan Weaver. We wanted to swap Riznik for him, but they asked for a center back, so we had to give up Chalupek plus 9 million to the Germans, and we had our new goalkeeper. After that, we received the biggest transfer offer ever seen in Irish football. Now, even though it's for our striker Konadu, this is an offer we might not be able to refuse. But we wanted more money for him, so we asked Wolves for 169 million, and they gladly accepted. Now, with Konadu off to the Premier League, we have a tough time finding a replacement. We have a big problem. You see all these potential strikers, none of them want to play in the Irish League, except for one guy. You guys remember Jamie Gullin? Well, we can actually approach to buy him. So after Brandon Rodgers agreed to sell him back to us for 75 million, we sat down with Gullin the Villain. You know, they started calling you Gullin the Villain after you left us, right?
Yes, boss. But you know I felt disrespected, so I had no choice but to go.
Alright, look, I'm putting my neck on the line bringing you back to Dundalk, so you have to perform at your peak, otherwise the fans will never forgive you and I'll be fired.
I understand, boss. I will give it my best.
Following Gullin's return, we ended up selling Riznik for 14.5 and Velde for 25 million. Still with almost 100 million in the budget, we need a new left winger and a new center midfielder. So we managed to sign the center midfielder Paulo Bernardo from Celtic for 41.5 million. But negotiations stalled for our left midfielder target Daniel Felipe Ruiz before our crucial final Champions League group stage match against Arsenal. To make it into the playoffs, we really needed to secure the 3 points in this match. Needing to prove himself quickly to the crowd, Jamie Gullin took a shot from a very difficult angle. It was blocked and deflected into Calabria's arm, and the ref pointed to the penalty spot. Gullin then calmly ran up and converted his penalty, and for the moment, he was no longer the villain. For the rest of the match, he kept on trying for a second goal and got very close to scoring, but nothing else would get past Oblak. However, when the ref blew the final whistle and we got the 3 points, the crowd seemed very pleased with the striker's overall performance. Following the match, we went back to the negotiation table for Ruiz and we managed to sign him for just over 45 million. Next, going back to the Champions League, we would have to face RB Leipzig in the playoffs, and having drawn 1-1 in the first match, we had home field advantage going into the return leg. And we wasted no time as we quickly took the lead with Gullin scoring on a beautiful counter-attack in the 9th minute. Then our most recent signing, Ruiz, cut inside from the left and finished beautifully as we marched on into the round of 16 with a 2-0 victory. And now it's that crucial moment where we have to make it into the quarterfinals. We've been matched up against Juventus. They finished first during the league phase, but I believe in our team and I think we have what it takes to beat them. And with this belief, we kicked off the first leg at home. Juve came out guns blazing with Gustavo's shot flying and past Weaver to give them a 1-goal lead, but we would respond quickly after a great great 1-2 between Gullen and Nuama, with our captain putting his own rebound past Costa to tie the match. Then we had a lucky break when the ball hit Locatelli's arm and the ref gave us a penalty. Gullen stepped up and with a strong finish made it 2-1 for us. Weaver then made a massive save on Vlahovic, which nearly trickled past him into our goal. And then Gullen almost doubled our lead in the final minute, but his shot went just wide, so we take a 1-goal advantage into the return leg. After having topped the league phase and down by a goal on aggregate, all the pressure was on the Juventus players in front of their home crowd. And it looked like this pressure got to McAllister in the 37th minute as he received a straight red card after a reckless tackle on Chucky. Then a Udogi handball gave us a free kick, which then got blocked by Udogi's arm once again, and this time we were awarded a penalty. However, Cullen's penalty unfortunately went into outer space, but the good news was we were able to hold on to a 0-0 draw to advance into the quarterfinals. Now, having made it into the quarterfinals, we don't have to worry about getting fired anymore, but we have something else to worry about. It's that we have been matched up against Real Madrid. However, having made it this far, our fans are fired up and our players look confident, and given Real Madrid's recent form in La Liga, they don't seem to be firing on all cylinders. So we came out looking to strike early, but Nuama hit the post on this glorious chance. That would have been sweet. Then Vinny Jr. made us pay by scoring in the 22nd minute to give Real Madrid a 1-goal lead. And to make matters worse, Chucky received a straight red on this tackle to leave us down with 10 men. No way that's a red. However, this seemed to fire up our players because Gullen got this tap in following some great passing to equalize. Then Weaver made this incredible save on Mbappe, and ultimately Gullen failed to score on this golden opportunity, so we had to settle for a draw at the end of the 90 minutes. Now, with Chucky suspended for the next match, we have to find a replacement. You guys haven't seen this player so far, Kyle Devlin, but we found him in our academy and we had him out on loan, so we're gonna call him back and he's gonna play his first match away at Santiago Bernabeu against Real Madrid. So no pressure, kid. And as if he had ice in his veins, he managed to get this pass to Gullen, who finished it beautifully to make it 1-0. Then right before halftime, we nearly blundered this incredible opportunity, but lucky for us, the ref pointed to the penalty spot and we got a second chance. Gullen made no mistake this time to get his brace, and he was right back at it in the second half, completing his hat trick after this great assist from the youngster Devlin. However, Vitinha quickly pulled one back for the hosts to cut our lead back to 2. We managed to stay focused with Weaver making a huge save, and following some great defensive plays, the match ended 3-1 and our fairy tale run keeps going into the semis. And in the semi-final, our opponent is Leverkusen, and their current situation in the Bundesliga is a little bit similar to Real Madrid. They're not doing that well, and when we look at their players, they're not that much better than us, so we have a real shot at making it into the finals right now. So we headed into the first match in Germany feeling confident, and after ridiculing the Leverkusen defense with some great controlled passing, we struck first with Gullen to take the lead, but Leverkusen would end up equalizing in the 61st minute following some bad defending on our part. So the match ends 1-1 as we move on to Oriel Park with everything still to play for. And in front of a sold-out stadium, we were ready to make history. It was the deadly duo of Nuama and Gullen striking first for us, with only 14 minutes having gone by. Then before Leverkusen could even recover from conceding the first goal, Patrick Nuama scored our second goal. This forced a quick substitution from Alonso, but we were just locked in, and Nuama assisted Gullen yet again for a third goal. Man, we're just cruising here. And it just seemed inevitable. Gullen got his hat trick right before the halftime whistle. He's on fire. Then we added a fifth with Nuama, and to Leverkusen's disbelief, we were heading into the Champions League final after a 5-0 rout. And in the Champions League final, our opponent is Barcelona. And guys, look who their striker is. You can't see it right now, but he's none other than our former youth academy star, Jensen. Now, Barcelona's definitely the highest rated team we'll have to face so far, but the chemistry we've got going on with this group of players, I think will be enough to beat Barcelona. You'll remember how bad our squad was when we started, so I think this group of players will get it done, especially after just winning 5-0 against Leverkusen. And with that, we took our good momentum with us to Estadio Metropolitano to hopefully lift this trophy at the end of the match. There he is, the man who actually played a decent part in us getting this far. At the time, if you'll remember, we sold him for 30 million, which allowed us to sign some good quality players. And it would be none other than Jensen getting involved in the first highlight of the match when his shot hit the post. Then somehow Wanner also missed the target by a hair. We got lucky there. Then right before the halftime whistle, the incredible chemistry between Ghiellini and Nuama was on display when our captain timed his run perfectly to put us up by a goal. However, Barcelona would respond in the 63rd minute following a great display of skill from Jensen, who chipped Weaver to tie the match. Then moments after, luck would be on our side once again when Weaver spilled the ball after making an incredible save on Jensen, who ended up being offside when scoring the second chance he got. I don't know when our luck's gonna run out, but we get lucky again. With no intention of leaving our fate to luck, a classic Nuama-Gullen partnership had us take the lead once again in the 75th minute. However, a great bit of skill from Dani Olmo had Barcelona on equal terms almost immediately, and we would need extras to decide the champion. In extra time, Jensen would strike again, this time with a header to put Barcelona in a very good spot. But having made it this far, we weren't going to give up easily, and when the Barca backline fell asleep, Gullen took full advantage to score and send this match into penalties. In the penalty shootout, Jensen scored for them, Reyes scored for us, Weaver made a save, Messeguer scored, Gluck scored, Nuama scored, Weaver made another save, and finally Bernardo scored to make our dream become a reality. We've built an amazing team, we've come a long way, and now we are the champions of Europe. Thank you guys so much for watching and having made it this far. Who was your favorite player of the video? Let me know in the comments, and if you watch this video as well, I would really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.